So in this video, we're going to put our equation solving skills to use, and we're going to use it to solve problems that would arise in real world situation. Okay, so here's the plan. I'm going to lay out a strategy for us to use to solve some problems, and then we'll solve a problem, and I'll go through it kind of slowly and make sure you get the details and understand how to apply the strategy. And then in the next few videos, I'll go over more problems like these. But anyways, let's begin. So our strategy is 4 steps. And to clarify, we're using this to solve problems like word problems that are presented in paragraph form. So they have a couple sentences giving us some information and then asking us to find something or solve something. But the first step to solving a problem is to understand the problem, and that means we have to be able to identify what is being asked and or identify what we're being asked to find and what information we're given. So I might make something like a given column and then a find column, and in the given column I'll just list out all the information they give me in the word problem, and then usually there's only one thing that they're asking me to find. So this kind of helps us separate out the known information, which is the given, from the unknown information, which is what we're being asked to find. And so remember, we've got an unknown here, so we should choose a variable to represent it. Also, in situations where drawing something would help, go ahead and make a drawing to model this situation. But essentially in this step, we want to identify the known information and what we're being asked to find, and then select a variable. And then in step 2, we want to translate the words in the problem into the language of math. So we're going to put it into an equation form. And then once we have modeled our situation with an equation, we can move on to step 3 and solve that equation. Hopefully that's the easy part for you guys, using the skills that we've learned in the past couple of videos. And then in the interpret step, we'll check our solution and make sure it makes sense in the context of the problem. And then we'll state what we found the value they were asking us to find to be. We'll just state basically our conclusion and answer their question or do what they told us to do. But you'll see that solving a problem, a real world problem, is a lot more than just solving the equation, the math part. We have to understand the problem, and then we have to put it into actually take the words and put it into math, and then we solve it, and then we put it back into words in the interpret part. So it's really about taking words, putting it into math, and then solving it, kind of mixing the math around to solve it, and then we put it back into words and make some sense of it. So that's what we're doing when we're solving real world algebra problem. But anyway, I'll just get to the problem. So it says 4 times the sum of a number and 2 is the same as 3 times the difference of the number and 1. Find the number. Alright, before I do anything, I'll just say this isn't real world math. This is just abstract number. It's kind of an abstract number puzzle, but it will help us use our strategy. With that being said, after reading it the first time, you're probably confused. So remember, we're going through the steps here. We're in the understanding step. So to understand it better, it'd probably be helpful if we read it again. So let's do that. 4 times the sum of a number and 2 is the same as 3 times the difference of the number and 1. Find the number. Okay, so maybe you'll notice that we're being asked to find a number. In this phrase, number, this kind of unknown number, appears multiple times. Number there, and then number there. So it appears twice, but it's all referring to the same number, same unknown number. So we'll use a variable to represent it, and we'll use the variable x just because it's the standard variable, and we'll define it to be the unknown number. So now that we've selected and defined a variable, unknown number, now that we've selected and defined a variable, maybe it becomes apparent that we've got two expressions here separated by the phrase is the same as. So we've got 4 times the sum of a number and 2 is the same as 3 times the difference of the number and 2. So we've got two expressions, so that means we have an equation. And we're going to have to solve this equation and find the unknown number. And now we can move on to step 2 and translate the words here into an equation. So back when we were doing expressions, we talked about different code words that appear in word problems, like less than, greater than, the difference of. But the big keyword here, big code word here is the same as. And that's code word maybe you haven't seen before, code phrase you haven't seen before. Is the same as kind of means the same as is equal to. But the important thing to get out of it is equal sign. This is the same as equal sign. So now we have an equal sign there, and then the left side of the expression is above, and then the right side is after it. So I'm going to kind of just translate the left side of this equation, and I'll do that in black, and then after that I'll take care of the right side of the equation. So 4 times the sum of a number and 2. I'll break this into parts here. The sum of a number and 2 looks promising. We have a code word here, sum of. That means addition. So the sum of a number and 2 is saying we're adding that number and 2. And remember, we defined x to be the unknown number. So that's the same as x plus 2. So the sum of a number and 2 is x plus 2. Then it says 4 times the sum of a number and 2. So that means we can multiply that by 4. So that becomes 4 times the quantity x plus 2 is 4 times the sum of a number and 2. Okay, now the right side, I'll do that in pink. 3 times the difference of the number and 1. So here we have the difference of is our code word or code phrase. The difference of the number and 1. So the difference of x and 1 is x minus 1. So now we have x minus 1. And then it says 3 times the difference of the number and 1. So we multiply that by 3. So we're left with 3 times the quantity x minus 1 is 3 times the difference of the number and 1. And then we have our equal sign here is the same as, we'll put that in red. There's our equation there. Before we get on to solving this equation, it might be helpful to review the strategy we talked about in the past few videos for solving equations. But anyway, I'll sum it up as first we want to simplify both sides of the equation. Then we're going to get the variable terms on one side and the numbers on the other side. And then we'll just get the coefficient of the variable term to be 1, and that will solve the equation for us. Just make sure that whatever you do to one side of the equation, you do to the other side as well. So I'm going to rewrite this equation, and I'll just put it in one color and kind of give us some space to work. So the first thing we need to do, once I have this written out, to simplify both sides of this equation is to distribute over the parentheses. So I'll do that on both sides here. So we'll get 4x plus 8 equals 3x minus 3. Now you'll see that both sides are of the equation are simplified. We don't have any like terms to worry about. We don't need to combine those. So now we can work on getting the variable terms on one side and the numbers on the other side. So it'd be easiest if we just get the variable terms on the left side, and to do that we'll subtract 3x from both sides, and that will just cancel out the x's on the right side and leave us a positive x on the left side. So I'll do that here. 4x plus 8 minus 3x equals 3x minus 3 minus 3x. So we're left with 4x minus 3x is x plus 8 equals 3x minus 3x cancels negative 3. And then now we'll isolate the variable and get subtract 8 from both sides. So x plus 8 minus 8 equals negative 3 minus 8. So we're left with, and we don't even worry about taking care of the coefficient, sorry, 1, x equals negative 11. So we've solved this equation, but now we need to actually interpret that in the last step, because x equals negative 11, they were asking us to find the number. X equals negative 11 isn't really mean anything in the world, in the real world. To do that, we have to kind of put this math back into words. And the first thing to do that is to realize that x is equal to the unknown number, and we found x to be negative 11. So essentially, we found the number to be negative 11. So as kind of a check, what we need to do is put negative 11, replace that where it says the number or a number in this phrase here, and see if it makes sense. So I'm going to do that here, and I'll do it in red. So try reading this now. 4 times the sum of negative 11 and 2 is the same as 3 times the difference of negative 11 and 1. Find the number. Well, we don't need to find the number. We already found it. So does that phrase make sense? Well, I'm not sure. I can't really do math in my head that great. So I'm going to go and write it out. And I'll just kind of write it out, and we'll kind of check it and see if it makes sense. So 4 times the sum of negative 11 and 2, so that's the left side of the equation, is the same as equals 3 times the difference of negative 11 and 1. So 3 times negative 11 minus 1. And we'll put a question mark there because we're seeing if this makes sense. So I'll take care of the left parentheses first. Negative 11 plus 2 is negative 9. 4 times negative 9 is negative 36. Then on the right side, inside parentheses first is negative 12. And then 3 times negative 12 is negative 36. So we get negative 36 equals negative 36. So that checks out. That means that negative 11 does, in fact, work in this situation. So negative 11 is the unknown number. So in kind of our concluding step, we can take that math and put it back into a concluding statement in words. So we'll say something like, the unknown number that you asked us to find is 11. So that's our conclusion. We've solved this problem. I'll see you guys in the next video.